gives light and heat. Then the circle narrows almost imperceptibly, for of all the planets which circle around the sun, is not Earth the chief? This point being gained, he is inside the geocentric circle. Earth is the center of creation. Sun, moon, and stars are auxiliary forces, bountifully arranged by the giver of all good for Earth's beauty and comfort. Of all the creatures who share in this, is not man the most important? Thus he retreats to the anthropocentric circle. Man is the center of organic life, and it is easily seen that his race is far superior to the others. Their skins are not the same color. Their ships are not so mighty. Their cunning with weapons is infinitely less. His race is dominant by strength of mind and arm. The dark-skinned races must be taught civilization with fire and sword, with cannon and bayonet, with crime and death. They must be civilized before they can be happy. The naked savage who sits beneath a palm tree with his hut in the distance, while his wife and children hover around him, is happy only because he is too ignorant to know what happiness is. In order to be rightly happy, he must have a fine house, carriages, and servants, and live in a crowded city where tall buildings and smoke limit one's horizon to a narrow path of blue. He must struggle daily with his fellows, not for the necessaries of life, but for small pieces of silver and bits of green paper, which are not nearly as pretty as glass beads. The savage, unaccustomed to refinement, stabs or beheads his enemy. Civilization will teach him the uses of poison, and that putting typhoid germs into the drinking water of an emperor is much more delicate and fully as effectual. From this small circle it is only a step to the center and to that sublime egotism which has been named vanity. Man repeats in his own life the development of a nation. He progresses from unquestioning happiness to childish inquiry and wonder, from fairy tales of princes and dragons to actual knowledge, through inquiry to doubt, through faith to disbelief, through civilization to decay. He is not content to let other nations and other races pursue their normal development. He insists that the work of centuries be crowded into a generation, and in the same manner the growth and strivings of his fellows call forth his unselfish aid. Having infinite treasures of mental equipment gained by superior opportunity and wider experience, he will generally share his noble possessions. Is it personal vanity of the most flagrant type which intrudes itself, unasked, into other people's affairs? There are few of us who do not feel capable of ordering the daily lives of others, down to the most minute detail. We know how their houses should be arranged, how they should spend and invest their money, how they should dress, how they should comport themselves, and more definitely yet do we know the things they should not do. We know what is right and what is wrong, while they, poor things, do not. We know whom and when they should marry, how their children should be educated and trained, and what servants they should employ. We know for what pursuit each one is best fitted and how each should occupy his spare time. We know to what church all should go, what creed all should believe. We know what particular traits are faults and how those can be corrected. We know so much about other people that we often have not the time to give due attention to ourselves. We neglect our own affairs that we may unselfishly direct others, and sometimes suffer in consequence, for nobody but a lawyer makes a good living by attending to other people's business. Theoretically, this should be pleasing to each one. Every person of sense should be delighted at being told just what to do. It would relieve him from all care, all responsibility. The necessity for thought, planning, and individual judgment would be wholly removed. The musical student would not have to select his own instrument, his own teacher, nor even his own practice time. Every author would know just how and when to write, and in order to become famous, he need only act upon the suggestions for stories and improvement of style which are gratuitously given him from day to day by people who cannot write a clear and correct sentence. This thing actually happened. Consequently, it is just the theme for fiction. This plot suitably developed would make the nations sit up and send the race by 100,000s to the corner bookstore. The cares incident to selecting a wardrobe would be wholly removed. Every woman knows how every other should dress. Her sure taste selects at a glance the thing which will best become the other, and over which the unenlightened may ponder for hours. There is no more common vanity than claiming to know some particular person. We are all things to all men, the two who love each other better than all the world beside, having much knowledge, but it is not by any means complete. Souls reach out to each other across the impassable gulfs of individual being. And yet, daily, people who have no sympathy with us, and scarcely a common interest, will assume to know us, when we do not fully know ourselves, and when we earnestly hide our real selves from all save the single soul we love. To assume intimate knowledge of the 100 considerations which make up a single situation, the various complexities of temperament and disposition, which the personal equation continually produces in human affairs, the imperceptible fibres of the web which lies between two souls, preventing always the fullest understanding, unless love, the magician, gives new sight, amounts to the proclamation of practical omnipotence. There is no position in life which is secure. No complication ever comes to our friends, which our advice, acted upon, would not immediately solve. If our most minute directions are not thankfully received and put into effect, there is always the comforting indication of superiority. I told you so. And when the jaded soul revolts in supreme defiance, declaring its right to its own life, its own duties, its own friendship, and its own loves, there is much expressed disgust, much misfortune predicted, and saddest of all, much wounded vanity. The dominant egotism forbids that anything shall be better than itself. No success is comparable to one's own, no life so wisely ordered, and there is nothing so sad as the fame attained by those who do not follow our advice. Adversity is commonly accepted as the test of friendship, but there is another more certain still, success. Anyone may bestow pity. It is fatally easy to offer to those less fortunate than ourselves, whose capabilities have not proved adequate, as ours have. But it requires fine gifts of generous feeling to be genuinely glad at another's good fortune, in which we cannot by any possibility hope to share. Advice is usually to be had for the asking. In the case of a corporation attorney or a specialist, there is a high value placed upon it, but it is to be freely had from those who love us, and strangely enough from those who do not. It is one of the blessings of love that all experience of another, all the battles of the other soul, are laid open for our better understanding of our own path. But there is a subtle distinction between the counsel of love and that of vanity. The one is unselfishly glad of our achievements, taking new delight in every step upward, while the other passes over triumphs in silence, and carps upon the misfortune until it is not to be borne. From the intimate union of two loving souls, vanity is forever shut out. Jealousy dare not show her malignant face. These two are facing the world together, side by side and shoulder to shoulder, each the other's strength and shield. Success may come only after many failures. The tide may not turn till long after discouragement and great despair. But in the union with that other soul, so gently bearing its inmost dream that the other may understand, defeat loses its sting. Ambition forever beckons like a will-o'-the-wisp. When realization seems within easy reach, the dream fades, or another seemingly unattainable mockingly lies in its place. But in the sanctuary of that other soul, there is always new courage to be found. Long aisles and quiet spaces lessen the fever and the unrest. Darkness and cool shadows soothe the burning eyes, and in the clasp of those loving arms there is certain sleep. Vanity cares for nothing which is not in some way its own, and it is perhaps an amorphous vanity, as carbon is akin to a diamond, that makes a hard-won victory doubly dear. Yet there are always sycophants to fawn and flatter. There are hands that will gladly help that they may claim their share of the result. But that realized dream is wholly sweet in which only the dreamer and the other soul have fully believed. Failure, even, is more easily borne if it is entirely one's own, if there is no one else to be blamed. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. So spake the prophet in Jerusalem, and the centuries have brought the bitter proof.